Hey everybody, you're listening to What Are You Doing in Denmark, the podcast that helps you make Denmark make sense. My name is Derek Hartman, and I am joined around the table by the hilarious Conrad Molden.
Hello.
And the brilliant Brooke Black.
Hello.
And today we are going to dive into some Danish royal history, specifically talking about King Christian IX, who is often called the father-in-law of Europe. And we are joined once again, welcome back to our royal expert, Anna, who will guide us through the story.
Hello, everyone.
Royal club, exactly.
Oh, it's a royal wave.
The royal
wave. I like that.
But it's for goodbye, so we're going to wave at the end. You can clap now.
Yeah, and you're going to tell us about this amazing figure who connects Denmark to some of Europe's most illustrious royal families, all through one man.
Yes.
That I didn't know too much about until...
I mean, we all know Queen Victoria, right?
Yeah.
Or at least we've heard
Conrad,
about her.
yeah, you're familiar. Yeah.
Big friend.
Yeah.
Good friend of yours.
If only we knew
BFFs.
someone in the UK that was in this room.
Yes.
So Queen Victoria is usually perceived as the mother-in-law of Europe because she famously wed her children with all the other royal families. And the popular perception is that because of her, all royal families in Europe are or were connected because, of course, there are not only the royal families that are currently in Europe, but there are also royal families who are not longer royal families. They're former royal families like Yugoslavia, Greece, for example. They are not longer on the thrones because there are no longer thrones in those countries. But that's Queen Victoria, right? But actually, what made the link even stronger between those families, it was one and only Christian IX.
Wow.
Yeah, and Christian IX is a big character in Danish history as well because he is the first king of a new branch. He wasn't actually meant to be king, but he became king, and then he decided, I'm going to marry my kids very well. He married his daughter to Prince of Wales in the UK. A big part of DNA in the British royal family comes from the Danish royal family, actually. He married his daughter to Tsar of Russia. So she was Tsarina of Russia. And mother of Nikolai II, who was famously shot and killed by Bolsheviks. So, very sad story. His son was the king of Greece. So, again, third royal family. And also the grandson of Christian IX was the first new king of Norway. So, you can see a lot of connections. And those were just like kids and grandkids, but you can see much more for like currently also Spanish royal families connected to Denmark, Belgium, and all the others. I think the Netherlands are almost the only royal family that is not very connected to any others.
Really?
Yes.
To any others?
Like to any, like
To the Danes?
to the Danes, but also the last like 150 years, they haven't really married between royal houses.
Wow.
So they married like to aristocracy, for example, but not from royal houses. So the gene pool is a bit different than,
Anna's prepared a little quiz for us.
I love a quiz.
And because it all seems so unreal, what I just said, but it was true, you can try to answer some questions. You just say, is it a true or is it false? First question. Was there a king who outlawed dancing in the streets because he thought it was undignified in Denmark?
In Denmark?
Yeah, in Denmark.
I mean, you don't really see
what's that
Danes
movie?
dancing in the streets, right?
What's that?
Except on Yule Day.
What's the movie where they outlawed dancing?
Footloose.
Footloose. I think
Footloose.
Derek, it's not a film, it's a documentary.
So that's what I was thinking. King Kevin Bacon.
I mean, it sounds plausible, but I feel like Denmark also likes to party. I'm going to say
false.
I'm going to say false because I believe that royals can party also.
Yeah.
I'm going to say true.
I'll say false.
I'll say false.
It's false. It never happened. So good. Okay. A Danish queen who had an affair with her husband physician. Is it true or not?
With her husband's physician.
Yeah, specifically.
Confirmed?
Queen.
A queen.
A Danish queen, isn't there?
A Danish
There's only
queen.
two.
But the queen can be also a spouse of a king.
Oh.
Brooke, you sound so disappointed.
It's like you've never picked up a deck of cards before. Women can be anything they want.
Women are queen when the husband is king.
No, can't a man just do that job too?
Honestly, that sounds like a true to me because there's like if you're having a hard time, someone's dying, maybe that person, the caretaker, is someone that's available to them. I don't know. I'm going to say true.
I'll go false. It sounds too risky.
Yeah, it sounds too famous.
I would say false too.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
and it's well documented apparently.
Wow.
So it was Queen.
In the physician's notes.
Of course, but you cannot read because they're so bad.
They're so shaky.
It was Queen Caroline Matilda, a wife of King Christian the Seventh.
Okay.
And as I said, apparently it's very well documented. And the physician was Johann Friedrich Struensee.
Sounds sexy.
Sounds great. Apparently, maybe he was
Sexy
very
name.
handsome.
Yeah.
Very sexy name.
Okay, and the third one. Is it the third one?
I feel like
can do-
I know we're trying to go through this quiz, but I have so many follow-up questions I'm not going to ask,
Right?
but like these are all amazing, amazing topics. Okay, go on.
So, were there a Danish prince who was a skilled fencer and often challenged visiting royals to duels?
Well, that sounds badass. So
That
yes.
sounds accurate.
True.
And
I want it to be true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds true.
But
It's false?
Yeah.
But it sounds like Princess Anne in the UK, right? Like, she's kind of a badass.
And did she compete in?
She competed in the
The
Olympics.
Olympics? Yeah.
Like her daughter actually got an Olympic medal, but she's known to be kind of,
Yeah. This is Charles' sister, right?
Yeah, it's Charles' sister.
Ah.
She seems like a badass.
And she's also connected to Christian the Ninth.
Oh.
Of course, because the most obvious connection, for example, between Danish and British royal family is for Christian the Ninth. It's not like too much for Queen Victoria, because first of all, we have Prince Philip. So Prince Philip was a spouse of Queen Elizabeth II. He was a prince of Denmark and Greece. As one of the sons of Christian the Ninth became king of Greece, and one of his youngest son, I know it sounds complicated, his youngest son is the father of Prince Philip, or was the father of Prince Philip.
Wow.
So there was a very short line between
Wow.
them. Yeah.
So Christian the Seventh was his granddad.
Granddad.
His
Christian the
great-granddad,
Ninth.
okay.
Christian the
Ninth.
Ninth.
Christian
Sorry,
the
no,
Ninth.
it was his great granddad.
Yeah.
Oh wow, okay.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's
So
kind of
the-
a good coincidence because they were all the youngest almost. So, for example, Prince Andrew, the father of Prince Philip, was one of the youngest son of the king of Greece, George, and then Prince Philip was the youngest son of Prince Andrew. So, it kind of prolonged the time. But Queen Elizabeth also has a lot of Danish genes because her grandma was Danish, actually.
So Philip and Elizabeth are cousins also.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
And like both from Queen Victoria and both from Christian IX.
Ooh.
Yeah. I mean,
I do
How else,
remember
how
that.
else do you meet people unless they're in your family?
They need that same app they have in Iceland before you hook up,
Yeah.
where you just
Yeah, they
Famously.
definitely
your
did that.
grandfather is my brother's brother. So
I missed that episode of The Crown.
but it was the case because basically when Christian IX, he tried to make Denmark great again.
Okay.
Yeah. He
So he had
went-
an incentive to marry off his
yeah.
children?
So basically,
strategically.
Strategically, it was the way to do diplomacy at the time because they thought, okay, if I'm going to marry my children to other big houses of Europe, they're not going to attack me because,
Right.
I don't know, it's my daughter on the throne, it's their daughter on the throne, and so on. So this is how diplomacy was made in 19th century. And also, Christian IX, it wasn't a plan for him to be king from the beginning. He was from aristocracy from Schleswig-Holstein area, so the never-ending dispute between Denmark and Germany. How he became king is super complicated and super long. Long story short, his guardian after his father died was one of the kings of Denmark because they were related but not so closely. And then through different family, links and so on and so forth, he also married his second cousin. And when suddenly there was a succession crisis in Denmark in 1840s, they found out that his wife could be actually good pretender to the throne, but because she couldn't, they thought, okay, but there is him, there is Christian. And it's a long story short because it's a very long and interesting story, but we would have to have like 3 hours to go through this. It was also a very turbulent time in Europe in general. So
It was like the Reformation and all of that? Or was
no,
this-
it was a
Okay.
time of a big like nationalist movements in Europe. And it was the time also when Germany started to unite and there were wars over Schleswig-Holstein with Denmark.
Okay.
Long story short. And when
So late 1800s, this is like Napoleonic War? Era?
after
Like after that? Okay.
after like 50 years after that.
Okay.
50 years after that, also when Queen Victoria was ruling. And when Christian was already named the heir to the throne, he started to marry his kids because Denmark's international position wasn't that good at that time. So he also wanted to strengthen it, as I said. And it was one of the ways. So he married his daughter, as I said, to the son of Queen Victoria. And there was a second big empire in Europe, Russian Empire. So he married his daughter to the Tsar of Russia to have some balance there as well. There was a vacant on Greek's throne. So he was like, yeah, I'm going to put my son there because why not? Let's have a first child on a throne. And then actually his grandson, like one of his, he had 3 sons. One, of course, became the next king of Denmark. But the third son, he was proposed throne of Norway in 1905. But he said, no, I'm not going to take it. But the grandson of King Christian IX took it. So it was like, there was a time when you had around like 5 royal couples from this family only.
Wow.
So it strengthened the diplomacy connections very heavily. Actually, it also helped with Denmark's and Christian's survival on the throne because he was very unpopular at the beginning. He started his reign with a big loss of Schleswig-Holstein to Germany. So the nation wasn't very happy. But then through time, because he was perceived as a very conservative but good king. There was also a time when Denmark underwent different reforms when it comes to parliamentarism, for example, and some constitutional change. So through the time, he was perceived as a steady good king.
Any personality quirks? Anything else that you know about him?
He was very frugal, and he was because he wasn't really raised up in wealth. He was raised up in kind of a poor aristocracy, and also his wife was I wouldn't say of a similar background, but they were very aware of how they use their money. They weren't very lavish. For example, there is a story that kids, they have to repair their clothes.
And to fix their own
it was
stuff.
like kind of a normal
That's nice.
upbringing, very modern upbringing
Yeah.
for the kids as well. And the kids that went then to the thrones of Europe were known to be quite down to earth. So they did
great.
very modern upbringing.
You kind of see that with the current modern royals in Denmark too, where they have
Yes.
a reputation for being a little
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, I wonder
to
where
earth.
that started. So Margrethe's dad, and then it's like I only know from Margrethe down.
Right.
So
It's not far
Did
down.
it start with her? Did it start with before that? So
Jantelown, where
Yeah,
did this
well,
one-
She
yeah.
had very good family life as well. Her and the two sisters. Their family was also very loving and so on. Between her dad and Christian IX, there's only one king.
Yeah, that's what I thought. 'Cause
Wow.
it's pretty
Yeah.
close, right? It's like,
And the wife of that king, which is Frederick now we have to count.
Oh, right. That would be.
We need to go
And
to a
then
menu board and look
Margrethe.
at
Yeah.
that thing.
I mean, like,
We
it's-
do.
Like I
We'll
always
edit
say,
this.
like it's so easy to go through the kings of Denmark because there are only 2 names, but in the end, like when you like kind
Yeah.
of roll
It's
it up,
which Christian did
yeah,
that?
which Christian we did what?
That's why I need the personality traits and the quirks to help me remember. Because when I go to Roskilde Domkirke and I'm like, okay, this one, there's always like some weird facts on each little plaque. Okay, so this one is this one, this one is this one.
I have a question about his sons that just became kings in other countries. If there was a vacancy, was it similar to the idea that, okay, Denmark won't be a threat if we give them like another throne to be on.
Wasn't it more like Denmark needed more power? There was no one being threatened by Denmark.
Like, was it beneficial to Denmark so they were more willing to do it? Or was it also like...
Oh, you mean what's in it for the other side?
Right, like we can't take
That's true.
We can't take a Russian like second son.
Yeah, what's in it for them?
Was it
money?
Yeah, was it more like the...
So for
Did it have to do with Denmark's sort of like position as, okay, they're a little weaker, they just lost this war, they'll probably give us a king? Like how did that, was that strategic on the part of the rest of Europe, I guess?
I mean, we had like two cases here, Greece and
Norway.
Norway.
Right?
And in Norway it was like
Norway makes sense to me.
Yeah, Norway
but Greece,
kind of
I'm a little
makes
like,
sense.
oh, okay.
Because Norway had their constitution, then this kind of finally dissolved from Sweden. They decided to have a king, which is very strange, I have to say. Like that time, it was like more the beginning of democracies than a monarchy. I think Norway is a very unique and beautiful example. They did a referendum.
Oh.
And actually...
a monarchy through democracy.
Yes. They actually chose their
Nordic.
king. Because
Oh my God.
the king that was destined, like the guy who was destined to be here or who was proposed was Karl from Denmark. Someone advised him, make sure they have a vote on it. Like they choose you in the referendum, because otherwise it will be kind of opposed, especially having the history between Norway and Denmark, right? That would be a bit strange. So,
but if you want to get back at a Swede, hire a Dane.
Yeah, so they voted on him in the referendum. He came to Norway, to Oslo, and from that moment, he wasn't Danish anymore.
Okay.
He had to be super, super Norwegian. So he wasn't Karl, he was Hakon, for example. His son's name was also changed. So it wasn't, I think it was Alexander before. It wasn't, it changed to Olaf.
Wow.
Yeah. So Olaf actually, current king of Norway, is the first king that was born in Norway.
Oh, wow.
He's the first king of Norway,
No
like
way.
in super modern times. Yeah.
Olaf, current king.
No,
First king.
it's Harald.
The first two were imported from Denmark.
Yes.
And then the third...
Don't call me Carl, call me Håkan.
Right.
But his wife was a daughter of Queen Victoria.
Oh my Lord.
So the circle completes.
Go to Amalienborg, check out the chart.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's no other way.
Even if I was there looking at it, I'd still be like,
Yeah.
does this work?
When you go to Oslo, for example, and you get to know, for example, Queen Maud, they loved her. And, well, it's amazing how descendants of Queen Victoria and Christian the Ninth coming together. And the Greece story, it's more complicated, but I'll make it very short. They had a king imported from Germany, Otto. They didn't like him. They threw him out. And they were like, okay, another one, maybe from Denmark. And they
We have a vacancy. We didn't like Otto.
Yeah, and they appointed 17-year-old at the time to be their king. Yeah, to
Cool.
kind of
We'll take
also
this
mold
guy.
him. Yeah.
And then he got his name changed too? Or...
He became George.
Oh, okay.
George the First. It's a long, short story of how Denmark ruled the Europe.
Wow. Well, that's really cool to know a little bit of history that I did not know of. And this one Danish king basically got Denmark on the map.
Yeah.
All over the map.
That's crazy.
Once
Your
again,
bartering chip is a child.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it's like, please don't attack us. Here's my daughter.
Well,
Here's
you
my
have
son.
to see what you can do with it.
Yeah. Who am I marrying them off to?
Well, it's a good thing that those times are over, and I now see maybe why they're doing that less and less now. And
Well, now it's common to marry commoners, right?
yes, right.
Like Mary, I don't know, like Kate Middleton and so on. And that's pretty cool. Like,
Kate Middleton's a commoner.
Yes.
Oh,
By royal standards.
For well standards. Yeah.
wow.
Anna, thank you so much for filling us in. This has just been a fascinating discussion.
Yeah.
And please come back anytime and tell us about these interesting royals we had no idea about. I'm really curious about...
Next time, come with a big chart.
Yeah. I really want to get it right because
Yeah,
it's fascinating.
I want to hear about the queen with the physician, the physician of her husband.
Gossip.
Yeah, you're gonna have to come back and tell us
That'll
more
be like
about...
Royal Archive.
Yeah. So please come back. We'll end on that cliffhanger. But thanks for listening and watching, everybody. Hi.